Atheists will often ask, why is God so evil? Millions of people suffer and die, and God caused that, so therefore, if God exists, he must therefore be evil. And many people think, well, this is fair enough. This is a good logical argument, but I wish to argue with that. I don't think it is a good logical argument. Let me tell you why. In order to say that God creates life and death, and that's the reason he's evil, you have to validate that he creates life and death in the first place. Do atheists believe that God creates life and death? No. Do atheists validate that life and death exists? Yes, they do. So if you don't have God to create life or death, you have to therefore say life and death is just a thing, we don't need an explanation for it. But for some reason, we know that life is good on its own, but that death is bad on its own. So we have a concept of good and bad, and we attach good to life, bad to death. But we don't have God to create that, so it's just a random occurrence, just one of those things. If it is just one of those things, why is it evil? It's not. If it's just a random occurrence and there's no motive behind it, there's no motivation to create that and to experience that, then it is not good or evil, is it? Because good or evil is driven by a personal viewpoint. What is good for me might well be bad for you. What is good for you might be bad for me. But there is no unique identifying pillar of observation. There is no way that we can conclusively say my view is good, your view is bad, without having God. So when an atheist says, if God exists and he also makes life and death, he must be evil, what they're actually saying there is, life is by default evil because it ends in death. So they're saying death is God because it's the thing that ends life, and life is good, and therefore death must be bad. But is death really bad? Because they also say free will is good. And they say we have free will without God giving it to us. So if we have free will, what happens when we want to die? Let's say I'm alive for 10 million years, and I get bored, and everyone I met is horrible to me, and I never find love, and after 10 million years I wish to end it all and die. If death isn't a thing, I can't do that. So I am a slave to life, and it makes me miserable, because I've been alive 10,000 years and it was not a very nice experience. So that means life is now bad for me, and death would be good, but I'm locked out of death. I can't have death. So that means for me, in that scenario, life would be the God, but it would be evil. And I wish it wasn't there, because I've been alive 10 million years and I'm not enjoying myself. So what I'm getting at is this. In order for life and death to be considered good on the life side and bad on the death side, my experience needs to have a finite amount of time, and that amount of time needs to have good experience in there overall. Otherwise, I'm going to say that life is evil. So is that what these atheists are saying? Are they saying life is by default evil because it ends in death? And if that is the case, then it isn't anything to do with God creating it. It is the fact that it exists that makes it evil. I don't think so. I think God creates life and death on purpose, and it is good. Even death is good. Think about it, like the explanation that I gave of being alive for 10 million years. If you've been alive that long and you're bored, you've done everything and everyone you met was horrible to you, and you wish to end it all, if you find you cannot, and you know that you're going to live for another 100 million years and counting, what's going to happen to your emotional state? You are going to become enraged because you know you're going to be tortured for the rest of time through your miserable life. What happens to you then? You become spiteful, evil. And over time, if everyone lives forever, everyone's going to end up there. So what the atheist is really saying is, God is evil because he created death, and if we take away death and let everyone's eternity run to its conclusion, and everyone to end up spiteful, evil, envious, bitter, and insane, and still not be able to die, that's good. This doesn't work, does it? So, anyway, I think I've made my point now. Life and death are two sides of the same coin. If you lived forever, you invariably would end up miserable, because there isn't going to be enough stuff to keep you happy for unlimited millions of years, and over time people would upset you because they have this thing called free will. That's another thing. If you don't have death, how do you truly have free will? Because you can't choose death. You have to be enforced to live forever, even if it makes you miserable. So wouldn't it be more logical, therefore, to say, death isn't the thing that is immoral. Eternal life without choice is the thing that's immoral. If I'm enforced to live forever, even when I don't want to, even when I'm totally miserable with it, wouldn't that be immoral? And if a God enforced that on everybody, that God would be evil. Whereas the God that says, I'm going to give you X amount of years of life so you can experience your free will, and then you choose at the end of it whether you want to live forever or die forever, wouldn't that God be righteous and good? Because that is the God of Christianity. You have a life in which you are going to die at the end of it, but through your free will choice, you can decide whether you're going to live righteously or not. And at the very end, you get to choose, do you want to live forever and be happy? Or are you that miserable and upset with your experience that you want to die forever and just be done with? So through atheists' own logic, if we think it to its conclusion, God therefore must be good for the fact that he created life and death and gave us free will to end it if we so desire. If we don't like being alive, we can end it. And their supposition that a God who didn't create death but did create life would be good is now proven faulty. Find me an atheist that will debate me on this. Find me an atheist who's willing to come and have an actual open, honest debate with me about the ethics and the morality of life and death through God's creation. And we will do the debate, because I guarantee you, if they think about it to its conclusion and they are as logical and moral as they think they are, they will have to admit at the end of that debate, life is not immoral through the fact that it exists. Death is not immoral through the fact that it ends life. God is not immoral for creating these two things, and if God didn't exist and if they were a thing anyway that existed, they wouldn't by default be evil either. The thing that makes evil is a lack of free will. Removal of choice is evil. And therefore having a choice to choose to be that evil or to go away from it and choose to be good is the overarching idea of morality contained in one little nugget. And that is what God has provided us with, which is why we're sat here now having this discussion about whether something's good or bad, whether life or death is good or bad, what would happen if you never died and you were forced to live a miserable life for the rest of eternity, and why that comes about, which I think evidently is God that creates that. But alternatively, if it's just a thing that happens, then death is the God, because that's the thing that gives you free will. So, that's the end of this video. Please find me that atheist. I'll debate them all day long if I need to, but I guarantee you they will lose. Because like we've just demonstrated, the only thing that defines good and bad in terms of life and death is a person's free will. And free will only exists because of death. If you didn't have death to contend with, then you wouldn't be able to choose to end your life. And your life would end up being eternally miserable. And therefore life would by default be evil. So, come at me, bro, atheists. You know, I'm a friendly guy. I'm obviously joking about saying come at me. I'm a little bit of a sarcastic dude, but I will be fair to you. I'll listen to your arguments. And I would like to hear what you have to say, because as I've demonstrated here, I don't think there's any logic to the atheist position that God is naturally bad because he makes people die. I think death is a thing that makes life have value. Therefore it's intrinsically moral and good. But anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed that and you learnt something. God bless you all, and I'll see you lovely people in the next one. Bye now. Keep in mind, O atheist challenger, I was an atheist for 2/3 of my life. I had exactly the same position and structural arguments as you will come at me with, but I also have my position which you have not taken. So, come at me, bro. Look forward to it. God bless you all. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.